You know that feeling? You spend years in school memorizing all these formulas, dates, and definitions, and then you step out into the real world and feel kind of lost? Well, you are definitely not alone. And here's the thing, it's probably not that you failed school. It's more like school failed to teach you some of the most important skills you actually need for life. So let's dive into the 5 big ones, the essential things that school just never gets around to. And this really gets to the heart of the problem. Think about it. School is this very structured place, right? It's all about finding the right answers, following the rules. But life isn't like that at all. Life demands that you can adapt when everything goes sideways, that you can take initiative when there's no teacher telling you what to do next. It's this huge disconnect, and it's one we all have to figure out how to bridge.
All right, so let's jump into the first one. And honestly, this might be the most important skill of them all. And it's learning how to learn. See, school is great at telling you what to learn for the test. But what happens when that structure is gone? A lot of us are left feeling like we don't really know how to keep growing on our own.
This quote just nails it, doesn't it? We live in a world that's changing so fast. The facts you crammed for in history class might be outdated by next year. What really, truly matters now is your ability to pick up new skills, to adapt on the fly, and basically to become a student of life, on your own terms.
So, how do you actually do that? How do you learn anything? Well, it's not some kind of magic trick. It's really just a process. First, you take that big, scary skill you want to learn and you break it down into tiny, bite-sized pieces. Then you just have to practice, but practice effectively, with focus. And finally, and this is key, you have to get feedback so you can learn faster and get better. That's it. That's the engine that drives self-improvement.
And believe me, that ability to teach yourself is so crucial. Because our second topic is something almost all of us are forced to learn the hard way, and that's how money actually works. I mean, we all spent hours on algebra, right? But how many of us walked out of graduation knowing how to actually read a credit card statement or even begin to understand taxes? Yeah, not many.
And this is a really, really important point. If you've ever struggled with money, it's so easy to beat yourself up about it, right? To feel like it's some kind of personal failure. But the truth is, for most of us, it's just an education gap. You were never actually taught the rules of the game.
Okay, let's take compound interest. This is one of the most powerful forces in finance, period. It's basically when your money starts making its own money. It's like a snowball rolling downhill. When you're investing, it's your absolute best friend, growing your wealth like crazy. But when it comes to debt, it becomes your worst enemy, turning a small debt into a giant out-of-control problem.
So, what's the bottom line here? You've got to understand the fundamentals. You need to know the difference between an asset, that's something that puts money in your pocket, and a liability, which takes money out. You have to see how high-interest debt is a trap, and yeah, you need to get the basics of budgeting down. Seriously, this stuff is the foundation for any kind of financial freedom.
Okay, moving on to number 3, communication. In school, you're usually tested in silence, right? Just you and a piece of paper. But in the real world, it's the complete opposite. You're rewarded for how well you can share your ideas and connect with people. Because let's be honest, the greatest idea in the world is totally useless if it's stuck inside your head.
So, what does that communication toolkit look like? Well, first, it's about speaking clearly and confidently, so that when you talk, people actually listen. Second, it's about writing in a way that gets your point across professionally and persuasively. And maybe the most underrated skill of all, listening. I mean, really listening to understand what the other person is saying, not just waiting for your turn to speak. And this quote really says it all. You could be the most talented, brilliant person in the entire room, but if you can't explain your ideas or connect with people, a lot of doors are just going to stay shut. Good communication, that's the key that unlocks all those opportunities. All right, on to our 4th point, and this one is huge. We're talking about the power of emotions. School is obsessed with how smart you are with your IQ. But think about the biggest challenges in life. Dealing with stress, bouncing back from failure, navigating conflict. Those aren't intellectual problems, are they? They're emotional challenges, through and through.
Yeah, you can really think of it like this. School grades you on your IQ, your book smarts. But life demands EQ, your emotional intelligence. And what is that? It's your ability to understand and manage what's going on inside your own head, and just as important, to be able to read and connect with the emotions of the people around you.
So what does that actually look like day to day? Well, it means managing your stress so you don't get completely overwhelmed. It's about handling failure with resilience, learning the lesson instead of letting it crush you. It's being able to read a room,
to understand social situations, and to build real, solid relationships. These are the skills that help you navigate the beautiful messiness of being human.
Because really, at the end of the day, real success isn't just about getting a good grade on a test. It's about being able to work well with other people, to lead when you need to, and to just keep going when things get tough. It's all about being emotionally aware.
And all of that brings us to our fifth and final point, which kind of ties everything together: adapting to the real world. This is all about finally understanding that the second you walk out of that classroom for the last time, the rules of the game completely change.
In school, you get rewarded for coloring inside the lines, for following the rules, for memorizing the correct answers. But the real world, it's a totally different story. Out here, you get rewarded for solving problems no one's seen before, and for taking the initiative when there are no rules to follow.
And this is maybe the most honest sentence you'll hear today. There is no syllabus for life. There's no textbook, no curriculum, and definitely no teacher telling you what's going to be on the final exam. You just have to figure it out as you go.
So, where does all this leave us? Now, let's be super clear. School wasn't a complete waste of time. Of course not. It gave you a foundation, the basics. But your real growth, your actual future, that depends completely on what you decide to learn next.
And here's the really good news, the most empowering part of all this. It is never too late. Every single skill we've talked about today, from understanding money to emotional intelligence, it's all learnable, and you can start learning right now.
Because maybe the biggest lesson that school never teaches you is that your real education doesn't end when you get that diploma.
In fact, that's the exact moment it actually begins. So, I want to leave you with a question to think about. After hearing all of this, what's the first skill you're going to start learning today?